All right, welcome to our Tuesday live show. Today we're talking about the frozen housing market, and I have a really special guest. Phil Simonetta is on standby right now. We're going to bring him in a couple minutes. But sellers, what's going on in the housing market? There's all kinds of controversy right now. Sellers, they want all the money, and buyers, they don't want to pay today's home prices. Interest rates are predicted to stay above 6% through 2029, we can pull up this chart here real quick. But according to this Yahoo Finance.com 5-year mortgage rate forecast, we are expecting, or they're expecting, based on the Treasury forecast, the data analyzing the 10-year Treasury, and what is added to that we typically see on top of the 10-year Treasury note, really predicates mortgage interest rates. And as you can see here, all the way through 2029, they are predicting that we'll still see interest rates in the sixes. And that's a big problem for sellers right now. So the question is, what will happen to the housing market? Will prices continue to fall? Will homebuyers wait this out? Will sellers delist their house where they can't seem to sell based on the prices that the buyers are willing to pay and that they're willing to accept for the house? So to discuss what we're seeing as boots on the ground, I have with me, as I said, Phil Simonetta. Phil Simonetta, will bring him in. Phil, what's happening, my man?
Hey, Todd. How's it going, man? Been way too long.
You know, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. I already see in the comments here, people love you. I think they like the back and forth that we seem to have in our conversations. Sometimes we agree on things, sometimes we disagree on things. But I'm excited to dive in today. What are you seeing in the Florida housing market right now?
It's frozen up, man. It's worse than it's been. The inventory's come down a little, but that's because the sellers have just not relisted. There's more expired and canceled contracts than ever. And the reason the numbers are coming down, they're saying, oh, inventory is falling, but it's not really accurate, because the reason the inventory is falling is the people who were selling have decided not to relist after 6 or 12 months on the market. That's what's happening.
Let's talk a little bit about your experience. You're a real estate broker in Florida. You're based in Florida and Jacksonville, and you cover the whole state in Florida, and you have your license in several other states as well. And I know recently you just got your New Jersey license. You're also a licensed loan originator, so we could talk about that. But how long have you been in the real estate industry?
I've been in real estate in one way or another over 25 years, as an investor, as a licensed agent since 2014. But as an investor, as a flip, build, sell, I've been an entrepreneur with real estate, restaurants, and other avenues as well in that time frame since I was out of college, really.
So take us back to 2014. Did you work for another real estate brokerage?
Yeah, actually, I was actually consulting a cigar lounge in Fort Lauderdale that we opened up, and the wife of the owner of the cigar lounge convinced me to get my real estate license. So I decided, you know what, let me do it, right? Because I was involved in real estate and lending and different things in the past, and I did that. And then I first worked. I did one deal. I went to Keller Williams. I did one deal with Keller Williams, and after that, I went to a company called Charles Rutenberg Realty, and I was with them for a very long time, pretty much until I went and opened up my own brokerage. After my son became a broker, an agent, and eventually became a broker and an instructor with me at the company.
What year did you start your brokerage?
I started a brokerage 2019.
Right before the skyrocketing home prices, right? I mean, that was
it was right in the thick of it, right at the end of the COVID. Like I was started the process. I didn't physically open until 20, but I was right in the process, like during that, and I just stayed with it. I stayed consistent and just determined on getting it done.
You know, in 2014, the housing market was rebounding. So it was coming off the 2008 crash. And I think in 2013, we started to see home prices appreciate again, going up. And so you jumped in 2014. Have you ever seen since you've been serving the industry, even as a flipper and an investor, have you ever seen anything like what we're experiencing right now?
Nothing ever. And that's what scares me a little bit, because there's opportunity all over the place. There's always going to be opportunity for the right people, or people want to make moves. But so many people are in over their head because they bought at the top of the market, and a lot of them even overpaid because they got the lower interest rates. So they said, hey, I can afford the payment, so I'll pay the extra money. But now they're realizing, houses are falling 20%, 15%, 10% in places. They're realizing they're underwater. They can still afford a payment, but now they're 20, 30 grand out of whack on the value of the homes. And sooner or later, when they can't afford that payment or they start losing jobs, that's when things are going to really get crazy.
Back in 2022, when the Fed started raising interest rates and we were in the middle of the frenzy, I had said that the housing market was going to crash, and everybody said I was crazy. It's happening right now. We're seeing it. There's was no way to predict how long it would take, but we knew that the housing market was unsustainable. We watched prices climb so far above the median household income that it was only a matter of time before this thing corrected. And then we watched all kinds of market manipulation, a lot of loan modifications that delayed foreclosures and really restricted a lot of the housing inventory that we saw going through the housing market crash, where it peaked in 2006 and sort of bottomed out in 2009, 2010. But, I've been serving this market since 1989. I started out as a contractor, then I built houses, invested in homes, flipped a lot of houses, and I didn't get my real estate license until 2005, and I was with a very large regional brokerage, built a team, and it was called the Sachs Home Team. It was at a company called Long & Foster, which is still around today. Mm-hmm. Berkshire purchased them several years ago. But I've never seen anything like this either. I mean, even leading up to 2006, when we hit the peak, home prices were still affordable. We could still, the median income household could still afford the median home price. Right. Because of this market manipulation. I mean, it's really unsustainable. And now when I look, I see home prices today, houses that are priced in the locally here in Maryland in the $400,000 and $500,000 range that, in my opinion, need complete renovation. They have outdated kitchens, outdated bathrooms, and the sellers are crazy. They want crazy money. And, I wonder about the agents, the listing agents of some of this inventory as well, and what they're thinking as to what they're even telling their sellers right now, when we're seeing that after a house is listed on the market for about a week, you've seen all of the traffic come through, and then it turns to complete crickets. And then they start chasing the dollar down, and they'll reduce it by a couple $1,000s. And it's still, when you look at the showing time, the back end of our MLS, when we could see the appointment schedule on a lot of these houses that are on the market, we see that there's no appointments scheduled. And when you talk to the agents, they're telling you they have no appointments. These houses are just sitting despite price reductions. What do you expect? Where do you expect that we go from here?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple of things to answer there. The first thing is, when you talk about the loan modifications, those loan modifications were terrible for people because they had 3-4% interest rates. They remodified them at 6 or 7, and they put all the interest on the back end. So those people, their payment doubled almost, and now they're stuck, and they haven't even made payments yet. They're just starting to make payments now, and they're not. So a lot of that's going to come into the market as foreclosure or short sale. Also, when you're talking about the listings, I have 3 listings that I got under contract in the last 2 weeks. I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now at the bar that I purchased, Pearly Bakers in Easton, Pennsylvania, with my brothers. In the last week, while I'm here, I got three deals under contract that were listed between 6 and 12 months. We reduced the land. There's a land in Orlando. It's in Orlando area, a piece of land on the lake that we sold. We sold it for $300,000. We had it listed at $399,000. So we finally got about $100,000 under. I have one in Jacksonville. I had on the market December 15th, would have been a year. I got it under contract now, but we reduced that over $67,000 from the time we listed it till now, until we sold it. And then I have another one in Jacksonville that I was just on the phone. I'm getting the contract done today, that we dropped down almost, I think it was $32,000 that we dropped it down, and we got it under contract because the sellers have rationalized. They had plenty of equity in there. They bought these properties prior, and there was enough equity built, and they're realizing that the equity that's in there, they got to take it now and get out before it keeps coming down, because there's no showings. The showings have dropped off completely. I have a couple other listings, one in Kissimmee, one in St. Cloud, that the sellers don't want to come down. And I haven't had showings in weeks, not even questions. No one's called, nothing. And my advice to them is like, look, some of them, one of them doesn't have the equity. They bought it at a higher price, and if they don't sell it, I think they may lose it, because
when
they
did they
just
buy it?
can't get out. They bought it, I believe it was like 2018, beginning of 2018. And, you know, this one of the spouses is out of work, lost a job, and they're stuck. I mean, they're strapped in this place that, you know, it's a little unaffordable for them now. And the equity's not there. And they're kind of stuck.
And they bought it in 2018. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, home prices have gone up nationally over 30%. Some areas, especially in Florida, have seen home prices double. I mean, why can't they get out if they bought it in 2018?
This personal situation is where they actually financed in after they bought the home. They put solar panels, they financed other liens into the house. So it's not that they didn't buy it right, it's that they put these other debts on the property, and now they can't get out without paying those debts off. So they're kind of stuck. It's not just the buy and sell of the property. It was just mismanaged equity, how they did that. So they're kind of stuck in a situation like that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. So did they lease the solar panels?
I believe they purchased them. No, they're purchased. They bought them because there's a payoff. There's like a $30,000 payoff for the solar panels. Yeah. It's a second lien.
You know, when people lease solar panels, that's like that's like the kiss of death. I mean, it's, you know, trying to sell a house that has a lease with solar panels, it's ridiculous. A lot of people don't realize it's almost impossible. Buyers want those paid off, those leases paid off. They finance them for 20 years, 25 years.
And that's kind of it. I mean, you know, like what you were saying is like, you know, the sellers who are rationalizing and have the equity and have the room there are going to be okay, because they're realizing it and they're taking less money and going. But there's a lot of people that don't have that option, and they're really stuck in those properties.
Right now, we're heading into the holiday season. I mean, you have Thanksgiving coming up here in, I mean, a matter of a month. Then we have Christmas, all the holidays, New Year's. People don't want people going through their house while they have their Christmas trees set up and all that stuff and presents. And what do you think is going to happen? You think we're going to see a lot more delistings in the next 30 days?
That's normal. I mean, that's a yearly, that usually happens around this time. That
it hasn't been normal. Hasn't been normal over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean it's the last 5 years, it was a frenzy, right? People wanted to sell, get the money, or people wanted to get in and pay too much. You know, so it was a frenzy. That had a big effect on that. The low interest rates. So people kept going. They wanted to get out, get the money, and go. I think now, you know, things have changed a lot. You know, I think the people's mindset has changed a little bit, and they're realizing, hey, interest rates are up. We put the house on the market. There may be no showings for a couple of weeks. It's not that frenzy that first week anymore. I mean, it's a different world we're in today.
I want to take a look. Let's pull that mortgage chart back up again, that forecast on Yahoo Finance. And by the way, guys, this is a live show. If you're watching us live, if you're just tuning in, go ahead and comment in your questions and your comments, and we'll see if we can't address some of those. And
I'm getting old, so I need my reading glasses here. So let me put them on so I can see what we're doing.
Well, I have mine here too. So, but you don't need them much for this chart. This is based on the prediction of the 10-year Treasury, and this is based on the Treasury forecast. And the spread that is typically applied to the 10-year Treasury, which predicates historically mortgage rates, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And a lot of people have been saying that mortgage rates are going to come down. And we've talked about this before. Houses are still priced in that 2 and 3 handle. And I think that sellers have to realize there's a big difference between a 2.5 or 2.75% 30-year fixed rate mortgage and a 6% mortgage. And even if we dip into the 5s, which I do think is possible, I think that the Fed is getting ready to do some fancy footwork. I think they've signaled that quantitative easing is on the way. I'm wondering if they're thinking about buying more mortgage-backed securities. We're going to talk about what the Fed has recently said about their cycle, their quantitative easing cycle. And Jay Powell was talking about maybe that they eased a little bit too much for too long. We'll take a look at that shortly. But what will happen to home prices here if we don't see mortgage rates dip down in the fours is the big question, because the sellers, a lot of the sellers that are delisting and expecting to list in the spring, and I've seen a lot of that here in Maryland where the seller said, you know what, we're going to pull it off the market. We're going to wait because we think that mortgage rates will come down. It's a huge mistake. You guys don't realize that the longer things move on, the more sellers will be forced to sell and the more inventory that's going to hit the market. And if you're pulling your house off the market because you don't want to drop the price, and you can drop the price, you're probably making a catastrophic mistake, as I believe that we're going to see home prices continue a downward price decline for an indefinite period of time. I mean, we may see it.
I don't think.
Now, there are houses that are priced well and that they are selling. I mean, they're realistic sellers and agents that are convincing their clients that, hey, look, this may not get better. All the while you're paying taxes, you're paying insurance, you're paying HOA fees, you're paying maintenance. This is not going to go well for these sellers. But looking at this chart, you think we'll see mortgage rates drop?
I don't see mortgage rates dropping. The big factor there was the government and the Fed buying the mortgage-backed securities. They can't do it anymore. The inflation, they can't do it. That had a big effect on the mortgage rates as well. And the problem is, again, we talked about this before, people can only afford a certain payment. So to fit that payment, the sales price got to be at a certain level when the rate's 6, and the sales price can be a certain level when the rate's 4 to get to that payment. That payment is the key for the buyer. And I don't see mortgage rates coming down. I actually see them coming up a little bit because of everything is smoke and mirrors. The Fed, the way they're playing with the numbers. I mean, even stuff in the stock market, nothing's making sense. There's PE ratios don't make sense anymore. It's all on emotion. A lot of it is on emotion. None of it's based on logic or fact. So when you have stuff that's based on emotion, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. So what's good for today may not be good for tomorrow. And the mortgage rates just, look, they're going to be between 5 and 7, 5 and 7, 5.5, 7.5. They're going to be in between there. And that's the normal area for them. And I don't see the whole thing that screwed the whole housing market up was the falsely lowered interest rates to 0% to 2%. The prime rate was 0%, the Fed. And when those rates were 2.5, 2.875, 3.25, 4%, they were so falsely lowered, and it allowed the prices of the homes to go up to get that payment. And if the people buying it could afford the payment, they didn't care. They paid the money. But those homes, to me, were never worth that money on average. You're always going to have multi-million-dollar homes that are worth 30 million, 15 million, 10. It's a whole different market. But the average homes that should have been 250, 350 were selling for 450, 550. They were never worth that. They were only worth that because the buyers were accepting the payment for what they sold for. You know what I mean? That market was predetermined by that lower interest rate. Now rates are back to 5, 6, 7%. Those homes have to come down or they're never going to be able to afford that payment. And the only reason those homes went to that value was because of the false inflation, because of the low interest rates that they cost. And that's what it comes down to. No one talks about that. But the bottom line is people can only afford that payment. And if they have to come down or they're going to sit on those homes forever because they can't pay more because their debt ratios don't allow it.
Well, let's take a couple comments. What are the lowest offer on the percentage basis that you've seen? This is Austin. Hey, what's up, Austin?
Hey, Austin, lowest offer in what we're talking about, just mortgage rates? Or
from the list price to the accepted price. I mean, have you seen 30, 40%? What's the biggest discount you've seen based on interest or list price?
On my personal deals, I just sold one 100. It was $599. We sold it at $500. So at 20%. on my personal. That was the biggest drop that I had on my personal listings and personal deals, about 20%.
You had the listing.
I had the listing. Yep.
And when you originally priced that house, was that a comp at the time?
Yeah, that was right on. It was actually about 10 grand under. It was about 10 grand under the comps because we wanted to go a little bit lower because the trajectory was coming down. So because the trajectory is coming down, we went a little bit lower.
And what's the story with that seller? Was it
no? It was
vacant?
It was vacant. It's a vacant property. Basically, the seller bought the property as an investment. Decided, he bought it for a really decent price. Got a really good price on it. This was back in, I think, 08 or 08, 09. He had the property since then.
So it was a rental?
It was an investment property, correct. And basically the property, it was now vacant. There was no tenants, nothing in it. And basically we got it on the market it was only on the market for about a month and a half. About a month and a half ago, we put it on the market, got it up there. We had about 4 or 5 showings, and we got lucky because the buyer, it wasn't just a random buyer. It was another buyer from the neighborhood that came in and owned other properties in the neighborhood and wanted it. That's the only reason we got it under contract so quick. And the other buyer, he bought some other homes in there as investments. And he decided that he wanted this property, and we came to terms at a price of $500,000.
So he dropped it $100,000 in a month and a half.
Yep.
And this is an investor. He saw the writing on the wall.
Correct. And he bought the thing for like 185, I think, and back in 19 or 2008 or 2009. He bought it for like 185,000.
What was the condition like?
The money was there. Condition was fine. It was in decent condition.
Did he have to go in and get it ready for the market? I mean, if it was a rental for a long time?
Yeah, he did some work for the property, about 20 grand worth of work. He put about 20 grand into it to straighten everything up and get it cleaned up. And this would have sold for $599 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. It probably would have. But right now at the 500, he said, look, it's the end of the year. Let me take it while I can. And that was my advice to him. Look, we haven't had much showings. We haven't had any offers. This is somebody who owns other properties in here, and they're making you a pretty quick cash offer. We just got under contract a few days ago. We're closing next week. It's a cash deal, titles in. So it was a quick deal because of that circumstance. If it wasn't that circumstance, we probably wouldn't have had any offers yet.
Are you seeing where buyers are requesting home inspections?
Yeah. And they're requesting longer terms. Like everyone I'm getting is like 15 days, 10 days. No, I don't see any 5 or 7 days anymore. And when we try to go back for a shorter term, they're not going for it. Like they want at least 10, 15 days to get in there and do what they need to do. They're taking their time now.
Would it be a fair assessment to say every buyer's asking for a home inspection?
Well, my buyers always ask for home inspections. I always recommend it. Like,
what about your listings?
Listings as well. Yeah. I haven't seen anyone like even when the frenzy was going on, there were still inspections, unless we had 4 or 5 offers, and then we would say, look, here we go. We have an offer here, but one would come in with no inspection, and we would tell people, look, we have one here, no inspection, and we're probably going to go with that offer. And then they would have an opportunity to say, we'll waive the inspection. But most of the times, I've only had a few deals like that, not many.
What kind of a addendum do you guys have in Florida for home inspections?
Well, it's in our contract. So the addendum's in the contract, and all of our contracts are as-is contracts. So what we do is the as-is contract basically allows negotiations after the fact of the inspection where the buyer or seller can walk away. No one's bound to fixing the property. So there's not really an addendum. It's built into the contract.
So do you have a right to negotiate and a right to terminate then in your contract? Correct. Or both of those clauses in there? Yeah.
Yeah. In the as-is contract, yes. And in the regular contract that they have, there is some liability for the seller to have a certain amount that they will repair.
So you still have 2 different type of contracts. You have an as-is, and then you have just a right to negotiate. Yep,
the state of Florida does, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. In Maryland, they got rid of it. There is no more as-is contract. The Maryland Realtors Association had their attorney said, you know what, all contracts are as-is. I mean, essentially,
right.
it's an as-is contract, regardless of whether it's a specific as-is.
A
But
lot
we
of
haven't-
sellers won't take it. A lot of
No.
sellers will only take the as-is. A lot
Well,
of
they
the
don't
agents,
want
a
people
lot
to
of
walk
sellers-
away. They don't want people
Right.
to walk away. And we have an addendum. And if you're buying a house, listen up to this because this is important. And, well, it's important for sellers too. But in Maryland, and every state sort of has the same type of, I would say, some type of period to where they can do their due diligence, right? Whether it's called an inspection process or whether it's just a due diligence process or period to where you can come in. I know in Texas, their contract, basically you just have a contingency period and you can do whatever you want within that contingency period and you can negotiate or get out of the contract within a certain amount of time. But what Phil's saying is that he's seeing longer days for contingencies, 10 or 14 days. And that is really important because a buyer really can't do a lot of their due diligence with getting inspections in a 3 or 5 day or even a 7-day inspection period. So we're always trying to push the inspection period to either 7 or 10 days. But if you're a buyer in Maryland, in our contract, in our inspections addendum, so in the contract, you can either elect to have an inspection or you can waive your inspection rights. Right now, we're seeing pretty much everything coming through with inspections, unless the seller knows that there are problems with the house and they are, and I won't even say whether they're pricing it right because they're still unrealistic, in my opinion, many of these sellers with the price that they're listing their home for, but they'll put right in the listing description as is. And what they're trying to signal is we don't want to fix anything. So your buyer can do pretty much what they want, but we're not fixing anything or replacing anything. Well, the issue is in our addendum, our inspection addendum. So a buyer selects that they want a home inspection. And then you have an addendum that follows that lists out what inspections you want to have. And then it says in there that there's the right to negotiate and the right to terminate, just walk away. Well, if you really, the buyer obviously wants the right to walk away, but the seller should be scratching through that right to walk away, that right to terminate. And they should be pushing buyers now to the right to negotiate. And the reason being is because the last thing you want as a seller is to take a contract from a buyer that has a right to terminate after a home inspection, and then they terminate and you're back on the market again. That really makes you look bad for, future offers because the buyers are like, hey, you've already been through a contract, it fell through, and now we want even a cheaper price.
Right. Yeah.
So anything to add to that?
I mean, the first thing I do when I'm working with a buyer is I look at the history in MLS and I see if there was any educated agent or broker will do that. And what you're looking at when you're making the offers, right? Call them up, ask them what's going on with it. That's the first thing you do. Before I even show the property, I look and see what the history is. And I mean, that gives you your that gives you leverage, right? So, I mean, a lot of it, like right now, we just had an offer come in and I'm finalizing it all up. They wanted a 15-day inspection. I tried to get them down to a 7. There's no reason you need more than 7, right? Get in there, you get it done. You don't want to tie it up off the market, right? I mean, you don't want
as a listing agent, but as a buyer's agent, I want 10 days at minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, but even so, like, you can get in there a day, you have the inspection report the next day.
Well, you may not be able to get the right inspector the next day, Phil.
Well, that's true. I mean,
you can always find a slow inspector that will go in, but you're not finding. I mean, if I have a buyer, I have a list of inspectors that I know will do the best job inspecting that house. They're going to be very thorough, and they're going to pick the place apart. And that's the inspector I want for my buyer. And those inspectors, they're busy. You can't tell them, hey, we got to get this inspection done ASAP. They're like, I'm busy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, 10 days is the usual, right? 10 days is the average. But as a listing agent, you try to go for a little shorter. And as the buyer agent, you try to go a little longer, right? Depending on the deal.
And what I'm saying to the buyers out there is stand your ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should.
Minimum 10-day inspection period or due diligence or contingency period, whatever it is that your state, whatever. And then just to backtrack on what you said about looking at the history, there are, I think, 11 or 13 states in the U.S. that are non-disclosure states, meaning that they do
Yeah.
not tell you the history, the pricing history on that property. So, you could be in the dark.
I know Texas is one of those, right?
Texas is
Texas is
definitely
a
one of those.
non-disclosure.
Yeah, but I have a friend of mine that's a broker in Texas, and she says that with their new MLS, the agent can see that on and off activity, and
Right.
with their new MLS. So you just have to dive in. It makes it a little bit tougher for people that are just looking on Zillow or Realtor.com to find that information. Sometimes you have to go to an agent to be able to get that information. Let's take some more comments. I know this is a sensitive topic, but have you considered there are around 5.6 million homes owned by people above the age of 85 years old in the whole United States?
It's a lot. Yeah, a lot of that is like generational wealth, right? That's families' inheritances to their kids.
Yeah. So last year, I forget what month it was, maybe it was in November, Yahoo Finance had published an article saying that there would be a silver wave of sellers. And they were predicting that in the next 5 years, about 30 million baby boomers would be looking to downsize. And that's a lot of inventory. The question is, who wants their house?
And I think it's a lot of them aren't going to sell. They're going to be given to the children. They're going to downsize maybe, and the children will take the home or be an inheritance of theirs, right? I don't think they're all going to get sold.
But who's going to want their house? It's interesting because what I've seen, the aging population is not keeping up with their house. They're completely fine
That's
with
true.
a green tile bathroom or a pink tile
Right.
bathroom.
Right.
They're completely, okay with a old drop ceiling in the basement and kind of like a dingy kind of basement. For those of you basements where you're saying, what the heck's a basement? It's a below grade area. You don't have them. They're not as common
not in
in
Florida.
states like Texas and Florida. And you dig a hole in Florida and you're in the water. But these
3
are
feet.
kind of like below grade areas. But what I find is a lot of these baby boomers, they have been on a tight budget. A lot of them, people want to down the baby boomers and say they hold all the wealth. And yes, the large percentage of the stock market wealth, I would say, are Gen Xers and baby boomers, but that doesn't mean that they're all wealthy, that all the baby boomers are wealthy. I see a lot of very outdated inventory. And as this inventory comes on the market, it's really going to skew the comps, because they may have the square footage that's there, and they may have, the 3 bedrooms, but a lot of them are 1 bath, 1.5 bath houses.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want them.
Yeah. A lot of people need that second bathroom. That's an older home, right? I mean, 3 ones. You don't see many of those. But yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of that is going to be coming on the market. The question is, do the people inheriting them make them rentals, or do they sell them, or do they keep them?
Yeah, I think, they want to downsize. They want to move on to the next chapter. So this is a lot of inventory. We haven't seen, they predicted 30 million, and we haven't seen a big wave of this at all. So it's just compiling. I mean, this inventory is just stacking up, this inventory that hasn't hit the market. And I think that's a big mistake with the sellers right now, that they're thinking that they're going to list in the spring. And I think we're going to see a big wave of inventory, even more than we're seeing right now, that will hit the market.
The foreclosure and the short sales are going to hit, because all these modifications that aren't being paid for are going to start hitting in the spring, because they're not paying for them now. They just had to start paying in was it September, October? They just had to start paying them, and people aren't paying them. They've been living in these houses for a year and a half, and those houses aren't maintained. They didn't fix the air conditioning. They're not fixing windows. Those people are living, rent free, mortgage free with all this modification stuff. You think they're going to fix the house and fix the roof? They're not, and they're going to hit the market too in the spring.
Do you really think that we're going to see that foreclosure inventory? Because I think a lot of it is being bundled up and sold to Wall Street.
That's it. Last time they bundled it up and sold it to the investors, but now it's the hedge funds, right? The hedge funds are buying them, and you have a lot of the pension funds. They're picking these things up. So it's hard to say, because it's easier for them to package them up and sell them, right? Not have to. It doesn't hit the inventory. It's not even public, right? They package them up, they sell them. There's not even a record of it. So,
Well, it's a record. You just have to look for it.
Yeah, you got to look at the deed transfers, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be a way with AI to see them all, but there's not.
Well, you
there's
don't even
not
need
like a
AI.
regular MLS.
All you have to do is you just have to look at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac,
Yeah,
NPLs and LPLs, non-performing loans, and and reperforming loans, RPLs.
Yeah.
And basically, they're bundling them up. I think Fannie Mae's maybe on their ninth sale, to where, and you can even see these pools. So they have large pools and small pools. You can actually go on and see what they basically paid, and a lot of the inventory that's being sold is a very low percentage. It's being bought for a very low percentage of what the value of the home is said to be, because a lot of the people that are going into foreclosure or that are struggling paying their mortgage, they were bailed out, or was sort of like this. They had this reprieve during the pandemic when the Rescue Act, the American Rescue Act, went into play, to where the loan modification started. A lot of these people were in default or struggling to pay their mortgages prior to 2019. It just kind of fell. Yep. And from what I understand, you needed very little criteria. There was like a 5-question questionnaire, a 5-answer questionnaire that basically said, is it your primary residence? Are you behind in your housing related expenses, your mortgage, your insurance, things like that? And then
there was no verification either. They just took their word for it.
Were you affected? Yeah, were you affected negatively during the pandemic? And so I think it was very easy for people to get this kind of modification. Let's face it, nobody wanted, especially coming into an election, no one wanted in Washington, D.C., wanted to see millions of foreclosures. Over 1 million people, 1 million households, over 1 million. I don't know what the exact number is. That is hard to find. But over 1 million households took advantage of some type of loan modification. They either spun it into a 40-year mortgage. They took a third of their mortgage balance, 30% of their mortgage balance. It went from 25% to 30% of their mortgage balance they could extract out. So basically, if you owed $300,000, let's just say about $100,000 of your principal balance was completely taken out of your mortgage. It was cast into a second mortgage with no payment due, no interest due on that portion. And then they remodified the mortgage to, let's just say, in this case, $200,000, and readjusted their payment. Now, of course, it did go to the current interest rate, but big deal.
Right. That was the big. Well, no, it went to, some of them went to like 6-7% from 4%.
But still, they took $100,000 off the principal balance and cast it, and then they made it a 40-year mortgage. So it's still a tremendous amount, a lot less than what they were paying. And a lot of this has been in remodification 4 and 5 times. I mean, we've had REO experts on our show where they've said, look, they pulled them up on the screen and said, look, this guy is remodified 5 times. And so now they're finally, he's gone. It kicked him out.
So the $100,000, what'd they just do with it? Disappear? Like, what'd they do with the $100,000 they took off? They made a second mortgage with no pay. You're saying that when they did the modification, they took $100,000 off the principal, cast it into a second mortgage with no payment. They just made it a lien with no payment.
That's it.
And it just sat there, never have to make a payment on it?
Until you pay it off or you sell the house.
Wow. And if the house value goes down, then what?
Oh, then what? As long as you keep paying. And that's the thing. A lot of people, and I tell buyers this all the time because people are still buying houses. Some of them are paying prices that they have an agent that's not, maybe what happens is there are a lot of buyers that are still paying today a price for a house that they probably wouldn't have had to pay had they had an agent that was sharp and figuring out the market and the activity and the seller's situation, especially when you're looking at something that's been vacant for months, where the seller's continually paying for things, but we still see that a lot of these transactions are selling for top dollar. I tell you what, it blows me away. But But the bottom line is, what I tell buyers all the time is, look, if you're planning on staying in that house, I mean, staying in that house a lot of times, I mean, it is a lifestyle. Okay. It's not a lifestyle for a first time buyer necessarily. If you've purchased a house before and you're buying a house that you may be overpaying for, but you've purchased one or three houses before, and this is great for you and your family, and this is the area and the school district and all the things above, that it's the perfect place for you, then guess what? Then pay it if you can afford to do it. The problem is so many of these first-time buyers are falling into this category, and they're not realizing that their mortgage payment is going to go up because their insurance is going to go up if it's not canceled because of the roof needing to be replaced in 6 months or a couple of years, or the adjuster finally goes by and realizes that, hey, we should have never wrote the policy on this house in the first place, and then they send you a letter. But what's happening is, if you're a buyer and you're going into this with, knowing that you may be buying at the top of the market, but you're planning on staying there for 10, 12, 15 years or forever, then it probably doesn't matter. And the same goes for the person that's had their remodification. If they can afford to pay and it helped them out, then great. That's fantastic. Continue to pay. If the price drops, it doesn't matter because you're not going to move. 30 years is a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, every scenario is individual. I mean, I'm seeing people that need to get out, people that are willing to wait to get out when they're listing the houses. The buyers, it's just every scenario is unique. There's no one of the things I'm running into. I don't have any, first time buyers. Very, very few. Very, very few people looking to buy a home first time on my side. Also, I don't have too many people just upgrading. Maybe they're having another kid, going to a bigger home. Investors are purchasing, downsizing. I see all over. And divorce situations where people are separating and selling it and buying another home. All the things you're mentioning, are a fact. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting what's out there in the market on both sides, buyer and seller.
I'm looking for houses. I have a lot of first-time buyers that are. We have just a whole stack of first-time buyers that are waiting, and we have had in the last couple of weeks some of them that have gotten some really good deals on properties because they are out there right now, and you can really save a lot of money here in Maryland, especially. And we're kind of tight still in inventory. It has stacked up, but it's still kind of tight, but you can really get a deal. And by the way, if you're in Maryland, we'd love to help you. If you don't have an agent, you're not underneath a brokerage agreement right now, reach out to me and book a call with me. You can go to SachsRealty.com. You can schedule a call with me. I will talk to buyers and sellers. You can reach out if you're in other states as well. I probably have agent connections that I can connect you to, especially like Phil in Florida. But if you're a buyer or seller in Maryland, reach out. I mean, we certainly want to talk to you and see what your situation is. But, I was looking at a house the other day, and it's amazing the amount of inventory that I'm looking at for buyers where the seller purchased the house. They were first-time buyers, so they're first-time sellers, and they bought in 21, 22, and 23. There's one house that I just looked at for a client. They moved out. The house is trashed. I don't know what the heck they did to the house they bought it in 2023 and they're out already. They moved out. It looks terrible. I mean, some people just live hard in their house but it looks bad. It is now in a short sale status, which what that means, guys, is that it's listed for a price that's already less than what. You've got two different categories. You have short sales and potential short sales, but it's already listed for a price that is beneath the amount owed on the mortgage, and it is in way worse shape than it was when the homeowner purchased it just 2 years ago. But we are starting to see, and look, I don't even know what's going to happen with this government shutdown. I mean, we are in a situation here
Crazy.
in Maryland and D.C. We had Doge. That really had very little impact on, we had a live stream when it was right in the heat of that. A lot of the social media people were saying, oh my gosh, the inventory skyrocketed and DC, and we debunked that. We went on, showed the back end of the MLS, proved that it was wrong. It was just hysteria for clicks. But this is something different. I mean, this is something that, because there are a lot of studies in the past that where government shutdowns, where these employees, these government employees, I mean, let's face it, just because they're working for the federal government doesn't mean that they're, flush in their bank account and that they can sustain 2 or 3 or 4 months without paying their bills, their mortgage payments. So I'm seeing where, this could be something really big, not just here in Maryland, because we have a lot of federal employees, but there are a lot of federal employees all over the country that are certainly affected by this shutdown, not mentioning the fact that a lot of these jobs are just going to get cut altogether.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They're using the shutdown as a reason to show that jobs aren't necessary, and they're going to start cutting these jobs permanently. And then what happens to these people that can't afford the payments? That's something that's going to happen for sure.
Well, and that just, unemployment rate between new graduates, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I forget
huge.
what it's like. 46%, I think I saw. People that graduated last year still don't have a job. That's almost a half of graduates graduating with college debt, a lot of them, and they still haven't been able to find a job. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, Powell has just sort of indicated that unemployment's rising. I mean, it may even be a lot worse than, if we dove into the details and looked at the different cohorts that
they're not even counting the people who stopped looking. They're just counting the people who are recent, right? The people who stopped looking for jobs aren't even counted in that number anymore.
I don't think that they're even counted after a year of unemployment. I don't think that they're counted either.
Right. Yeah, so I don't believe that number.
Yeah, well, let's take some more comments. Any thoughts on the D.C. real estate market? Up, down, neutral? I'm a realtor in D.C. Sam, appreciate your comment here. I mean, just as I had said, D.C., we've watched about anywhere from 35 to 40% of the inventory in D.C. have price reductions, at least one. And this type of activity has been going on since the fall of 2024, so that's nothing new. We're seeing.
How is the inventory? How's the inventory? I don't know. I don't know much about DC at all.
Inventory's high. Inventory's up.
Pretty high. Yeah.
Inventory's up, and properties are sitting, and like I said, a lot of price reductions, and with no activity. So how
about deals falling apart? Are a lot of deals under contract falling apart after they go under?
We're seeing an amazing amount, enormous amount of deals falling through. And this is a big thing too, getting back to the sellers, because for the last 5 years, or I won't even say last 5 years, I'll say during 2020 to about 2023, mid 2023, at least what I'm seeing locally, and all over for the brokers that I talk to in many of the major markets throughout the country, it's sort of the same scenario. We're seeing where these home inspections have come into play. You weren't buying a house in Maryland, D.C., Northern Virginia if you wanted an inspection in that period of time. Unless it was an anomaly. And so now inspections are back with a vengeance. And a lot of the sellers, especially ones that bought post-2020, bought the house where they still haven't. They realized when they bought it, they're like, wow, this house has so much wrong with it. And now they're trying to sell it without fixing those things. Tens of thousands of dollars worth of needed repairs and replacements.
Now the buyers aren't having it, right? The buyers now are tedious. They're looking at it and saying, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. They weren't doing that before.
So you have this scenario, right? Why is it going back on the market? If you're a seller and you have a home inspection and your buyer still wants that house, but they're coming back with a laundry list of repairs, you better do them. You better do them. You better say okay without getting yourself in an uproar and, getting offended and getting mad. You better get prices. You
The
better
thing they got to
get
think about too
prices.
is the fact that they're coming back to them is showing the interest, and any other buyer that's going to have the interest is going to have the same concerns. So
But chances are it's their
and the
only
reason,
offer.
and the thing is, as long as they're reasonable, most people are reasonable. They're going to ask for something, and you can meet them halfway. You can do something. You don't have to always go 100%, but don't take it emotionally. Just look at it logically. If you put yourself in their shoes, you're buying that house and you see these things, work with them, negotiate. Don't just get out of here and wait for another offer, because you may not get another offer is the situation.
Well, you're not going to get the other offer without a price reduction. Chances are that's your
Or
only
fixing it.
offer. It's your only offer. So you kick them to the curb. Now you're back to active. And the next step is another price reduction. And what's that going to be? It's not going to be $1,000. It's going to be $10,000, $20,000.
Right. It's more than they're asking for.
Then you have to compare that to what would it cost to go ahead and make those concessions. And here's what I'm going to tell everybody out there. A lot of the negotiations can be done without being on paper, right? So if you're in Maryland, and I'm sure this is the same way in many states, if you're in Maryland and you're using one of the inspection addendums or the inspection addendum that we have, you're basically you're coming back with what's called a property inspections notice. The realtors, our acronym for that is called the PIN, all right? Property inspections notice. And what this is a laundry list of items that the buyer is willing to proceed with the contract should the seller either make the repairs, the replacements, or give some type of credit in lieu of those repairs or replacements. Same everywhere. But here's what happens. If I'm an agent, if I'm a buyer's agent and, I'm green or lazy, what I may do is just ship that property inspections notice off to the listing agent. And a lot of times the agents aren't even picking up the phone and calling. I'll say to my agent, have you called the listing agent about this? Well, no, I haven't told. Well, why not? Why are you texting? Why are you emailing? Why aren't you having these conversations? But what happens is the minute that you send that contract, that PIN over signed by your buyers, all the seller has to do is check the box that says, I cancel the contract, and you're out. What you should be doing is picking up the phone and saying to the listing agent, hey, look, before I send this over, can you have a conversation with your seller? These are the things my buyer is wanting, and this is what's wrong, and this is justified. And you have this conversation with the listing agent. You're going to test the waters. The listing agent cocky? Are they clueless? Are they good? Saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's see if we can't make this work out. They'll go back to their seller and verbally, because in Maryland we're statutory state, which means everything real estate related must be in writing when you're buying a house. Anyway, not a temporary rental or 30-day rental or less. You can have a verbal, but if you're buying a house, it's going to be in writing. And get this information, flush it out. And that's why a lot of buyers agents don't even go to the home inspection. You should be right there with your buyer. You should be walking through. You should be not even before you get that inspection report. You should have a clue of what's coming out, of what that inspector's found, and you should be having some type of conversation with the listing agent, in my opinion. That's what I'm telling my agents.
One of the things drives me crazy is how, you'll get a text message about a property, or you'll get an offer with not even hearing from the agent, no questions, nothing, no communication at all. And then when you try to communicate with them, you can't get a hold of them, and they'll text you or they'll email you back. You can't take 5 minutes to have a conversation. It drives me crazy a lot of times. I don't understand that. And that's something like you're mentioning here is have that communication, open up, talk to people, put the deal together. It's not black and white, right? It's gray. You got to negotiate. You got to put things together. You got to bring things to the buyer's attention, to the seller's attention. And when you have those conversations, it helps you. So when you're a listing agent and you have somebody making an offer a lot under your asking price, when that agent calls you and gives you the reasons why, now you have the ability to go to the seller and address them coming from a third party, not coming from you. So, hey, these people are interested, but they're offering this because X, Y, and Z. And X, Y, and Z is going to be the problem moving forward. So then now they have a reason to say, okay, you know what, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should give them credit for that, or maybe we should reduce the price this. Because they know what it needs. They're just trying to get around it, right? So that communication with the other agent is tremendously important. to be able to put that together and use that as leverage working with the buyers and the sellers, right?
Right. We had a situation recently where listing hit the market and had an offer that came in, and right after an open house, and the agent that was involved instantly hit the seller with, or our agent with, an email that basically said, my buyer's going to present an offer, but these are the things that are wrong with the house. Well, the question was, so the buyer came through on an open house. So the question was, and talking with my agent, is did the buyer's agent see the house? The answer was no. The buyer's, first of all, if you're a buyer's agent and you didn't look at the house, I will not write an offer on a house that I have not seen. And you can ask any of my agents, they better not do it either. Because that's the first thing I say is you better they went to an open house, they want to buy it, so they think, how can you write an offer on a house if you haven't seen it yourself? So you start out the email offending the seller right off the start. And look, I'm not afraid to offend a seller, but it better be justified, and you better had seen this house if you're the listing agent that's spouting off all the things that are wrong with the house. They had not had a home inspection. This is not even under agreement yet, under contract yet. Who is that? Why do people hire agents without vetting them out and not understand that agent is lazy?
I'll never understand that. I will never
You don't
understand
sit from an. So I said, look, have you talked to the agent? No. All he's doing is emailing. Okay, well, you pick up the phone. Did you call him? No. Call him. Find out if he's ever gone in the house before, because if you just had the open house and now you're getting an offer, and you're not identifying where the agent came through and wrote their name on the on the registry that said I'm the agent, or call the agent ahead of time and say you're having an open house, I'm sending my buyers, go ahead and register them, they're so and so, and let the listing agent know that is happening. They're coming through. So they're represented, their agent was professional, they called and registered, and then, well, have you seen the house yourself? No, I haven't seen the house. Well, why are you even writing an offer on this? It's just insane. How do you even know what offer to write for your buyers if you don't put your own eyes on it?
It's amazing, isn't it? And it happens every day.
It's despicable.
I don't know how people hire agents to represent them that way. I deal with it. You deal with it. We all do. But I'll never understand that. It's something that baffles me about this business all of my life. Since I've been in it from day one. How do you hire someone that does not know what they're doing? It drives me crazy.
All right, let's see what other comments. We have a poll too, by the way. Let's pull the poll up. The poll was really talking about the Fed. So the Fed has signaled that there's going to be quantitative easing coming. At least that's what they're signaling. And the question is it going to be towards mortgage-backed securities? Will we see them buy up mortgage-backed securities to suppress the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, maybe to try and get it down in the fives if it's not going to happen automatically on its own? Will they step in and say, look, we need to buy mortgage-backed securities, put some more liquidity into the market, and say, look, we need to buy.
I lost our sound there. There you go.
There we go. How about that shutdown, man? I tell you what.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon, their servers went down, and a lot of.
It was crazy.
We're lucky that we're back up today.
It was really crazy. I was down, like the restaurant. Our whole system is on a system called Toast, and everything gets backed up, but nothing processes through till it comes back on. It takes all the credit cards, all the payments, but nothing goes through. And it's like a backup, but it didn't come back up till 2 a.m, 3 a.m. yesterday. It's kind of crazy. But everything's linked. Everything's linked to it now.
I remember when CrowdStrike went down. I think it was like a year ago. It was in 2024. I think it was in the summer. Maybe it was June or July or something. But anyway, I was headed to Peter Schiff's house in Connecticut. And so we had stayed at a hotel close by the night before. And I remember when we pulled up to the hotel, I didn't even know that it was happening, that CrowdStrike went down and all these businesses were affected. And we pull up to this, like, I don't want to say it was a dump, but there isn't a whole lot of fancy hotels in where we were going in Connecticut. And you're laughing, probably to be true. I mean, I think it was it was a Hilton, but it was almost like a Red Roof Inn kind of Hilton. It was kind of like dingy. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best thing we have, and we're close to Peter, and that we can get to him in the morning. Anyway, so I remember we pulled up and we're unloading our gear. We travel with like 7 cases. We literally take a mobile studio when we go on the road and travel. And so we unload these Pelican cases. And I said, I'll go in and I'll get our hotel room and our keys. Well, I walked in and I'm like, man, this is like a mad rush. Like, how many people? It was like a Tuesday night, maybe, or whatever night it was. It wasn't like I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Why are all these people here? And the lady behind the counter, and they had a manager, and they're running back and forth, and they look frantic. And I'm like, what is going on? And then finally I go back outside. We're chatting for a while. The line's not dying back. I go inside, and finally I get my turn. And they're like, well, we have to take you up and let you in the room. We don't have any room keys. I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, CrowdStrike,
The
our
key
systems
cards.
are down. And they're like,
Yeah,
pad of paper. Like, what's your name? And what was your reservation? Like, whatever. And they find your room. And then they said, you can't leave your room. If you do, you have to leave the little latch so your door doesn't close all the way. Man, I was like, this is crazy.
It's all computerized, right? It's all internet based.
Yeah, well, they
Crazy.
couldn't give you a room key. So if you locked your door, you had to wait in line for the manager to take you up to your room an hour later when they're done dealing with everybody else. So it was madness. But anyway, what were we doing? We were looking at that poll.
Yeah,
Here we go. Fed is signaling quantitative easing. Will they start buying mortgage-backed securities to drop mortgage rates? 57% say yes. This is kind of balanced.
That's what I was saying before. If they do, inflation is going to take off again. They can't. I don't know where they're going to pull the money from other than printing it. How do they buy them?
I think that if mortgage rates go even in the low 5s, it's going to do nothing.
No.
It's going to do nothing for the housing market. Prices are still too high. Remember, they're priced in 2 and 3 handles, not 5.
Yes.
And since the 2 and 3 handles, insurance has skyrocketed, property taxes have skyrocketed, repair costs have skyrocketed, and buyers want repairs and replacements and credit and cash back.
They can't afford it. The buyers can't afford the payments with the insurance, with the taxes, with everything else. They just can't afford it, even if they want it. And they're not allowed to buy it. The debt ratios will not allow them to go into a conforming product.
Let's take a look at this personal savings rate chart. This is a Fred chart. You talk about people can't afford it. It's not quite as bad as it was in June of 2022, where they said that the personal, your income, people were saving about 2.2%, and this is coming off the highest time when everybody was getting helicopter money. They had 31% of their pay was going into, or the money they were receiving was going into personal savings account, which is
just look at the manipulation. How could that be? Look at the manipulation. It's insane.
Why would they do quantitative easing when they're giving money and they're preventing people from needing to pay their rent? They're doing mortgage modifications.
It was a wealth grab. They took the wealth from the middle class with that whole grab. That's what they did.
And then the savings accounts, dropped all the way down to, if you believe these numbers, that people were saving 2.2% of their paycheck. And now it looks like, as of August, people can save about 4.6% of their paycheck. But people saved money. Look at this. During the 70s and 80s, people saved, look at this, 11%, 17% of their pay. They were putting in savings account, 10.6%, 9%. Back in the 70s and 80s, where we had double-digit mortgage interest rates, people had more money.
And a lot of these, though, is a lot of them aren't putting it in savings accounts, though. A lot of them are investing in different things, So it might not be that low, because they're putting maybe in digital currency and silver, gold, different things outside of liquid money in bank accounts, CDs, things like that.
You think people are flush with cash? The general public?
I don't think they're flush with cash, but I don't know if these numbers are 100% accurate, because there's other avenues to invest that aren't calculated here. I'm not saying they're flush with cash, believe me, they're not.
I mean, well, you're seeing it. I mean, the average buyer has less than $5,000 in their bank account.
100%. No, 100%. Yeah, you're right.
maybe they have a Robinhood account, but I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
who are the ones that have wealth or
Right.
buying the stock market? I mean, not the
agree.
first-time buyers in America. They're falling into
Right.
this, I believe, into this category. Phil, let's talk about something for a minute, buddy.
Yeah.
You have a young son. I mean, look, people are working for groceries, car insurance, and fuel.
Yeah, you're right. And paying their rent.
And paying $2,000, $2,500 for a one-bedroom,
Yeah.
800 or smaller square foot apartment.
It's insanity.
This is real. This is like real America.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I tell you,
Power dressed.
it's crazy.
This article, Lance Lambert, and he is a frequent contributor. He owns a company called Resi Club. He has been a housing market analyst for a long time. And he was at Realtor.com even and following it, tracking the housing market. But he's everywhere now, but he's a monthly contributor to our podcast. And we actually have a playlist for Lance where he comes on and gives real hard facts, real data of what's happening all across the country with year-over-year price declines. And people are in denial when a lot of these headline news reporting stations are reporting that home prices are going up. And he comes on and says, no, actually, I mean, a large part of the country year over year is seeing price declines. He also tracks the new housing market where builders have, I mean, it's been decades since builders have been in the situation, even back in the '08 crisis, where they were giving so many price cuts and concessions, mortgage rate buy downs. Now I'm thinking that there even may be some lawsuits. I saw some things out where they're saying, hey, builders use these interest rate cuts to inflate their home prices and charge too much. And I'm seeing some.
I can see that happening. I can see that coming.
Yeah, so it's like there's that aspect of it. But if you look at the new housing market, you can buy a new house cheaper than you can buy an existing house. And the reason is because they have to sell. And you know all about that. In Florida, there's a lot of new construction. Yeah. That's not being built. It's sitting.
I'm dealing with it. Yep.
But anyway, so Lance reported this as an article on fastcompany.com. And again, it says, speaking Tuesday at the National Association for Business Economics meeting in Philadelphia, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell offered his clearest reflection yet on the Fed's pandemic-era mortgage bond buying. He acknowledged that the central bank may have kept purchasing mortgage-backed securities for too long. But he also suggested that those purchases may have had a smaller effect on the housing market's trajectory than some assume. Regardless of the composition of our purchases, some have questioned the inclusion of agency mortgage-backed security purchases given the strong housing market during the pandemic recovery, Powell said. The extent to which these mortgage-backed security purchases disproportionately affected housing market conditions during this period is challenging to determine. Hello, I can help you with that. Many factors affect mortgage market, and many factors beyond the mortgage market affect supply and demand in the broader housing market. There is no way possible that we would have seen 2.5, 2.75% 30-year fixed rate mortgages if the Fed wasn't doing quantitative easing of mortgage-backed securities. I appreciate, Mr. Powell, what you're saying, and it is important to stimulate the economy. I get it from time to time, but I think, and I've said it before, that this will go down as one of the biggest mistakes. Now, yet we are still trying to have it show up. We're seeing it in red flags all over the country where prices are coming down, and we're really seeing delinquencies rise.
The entire market, the entire problem is because they manipulated and they bought the securities and they brought the rates down to inflate the housing, like we just talked about. Those houses should have never rose that much. They only did because they could afford the payment, the buyers, and they caused it all. I don't care what that guy says. We're led by morons. These people are, I don't know where they went to school and got paper degrees.
We didn't start buying mortgage-backed securities till 2009.
Right. Well, I'm saying now,
we never bought mortgage-backed securities. So every time in every situation where they bought mortgage-backed securities, home prices went up.
they're falsely reducing the rates and inflating the values because of the common knowledge of the people will pay a payment and they can afford it, and that's it. And that falsely inflated the properties. It goes back to that simple fact. Yep.
With the fact that we didn't see foreclosures. So there was a lot of inventory with people that are living in houses without paying their mortgage payment.
The foreclosures would have balanced it out, but they stopped them with the modifications where they also inflated those and raised the rates and made money on those too for the investors and for the whoever. But the thing is, it was all manipulated. The market wasn't allowed to correct itself, and it's still manipulated. Eventually, something crazy's got to happen.
Let's go back to days on the market. So Lance, speaking of Lance Lambert, he your state down there is like a different color than any other of the country. It's the darkest, meaning it has the houses with the most average median days on market. Now, median's kind of like a skewed number in itself. So median means middle. So if you took all of the houses on the market and then you counted them all out and you found the middle, how many days on the market, that's what we're looking at, 90 days. Right. Florida, 88 days. There are a lot of markets in Florida that are a year on the market. And you've said that yourself. So, but still looking.
The three I just did were 6 months to a year. I have listings over or just about a year. And I'm not having any activity, anything. I've never seen it like this time. And I advertise, I market, I push these things out, social media. There's everybody seeing them. I got tons of views, tons of saves on Zillow, but nothing's happening. There's no movement.
But I think the important thing to look at here is if we looked at this 50 days on market median, and really looking at this chart, most of the country is seeing 50 days plus on the market.
Yep. But that's more normal.
This includes
too, right?
New York.
But that's more normal. That's like a normal market. Houses aren't supposed to sell in 10 days, 15 days. A normal market is 2-3 months, right?
Well, I remember when a normal market was 6.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, that when I started in sales, it was not uncommon for you to see a balanced market, which is 6 months.
Yeah.
So, when you're looking at, but look at this. I mean, California, 58, Nevada, 60, Utah, 67, Colorado, 70 days on market, Arizona, which was firecracker hot, 67 days, Texas, 67 days, Tennessee, 65 days, North Carolina, 66 days, Louisiana, 71
what's interesting
days.
about this is, I'm licensed in Florida, Alabama, North Carolina, Tennessee, and now New Jersey. And it's interesting because I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm right on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It's called Easton, Pennsylvania, where I'm at now. It's about 45, 50 miles north of Philly, directly along the river, the Delaware. And Pennsylvania and New Jersey, houses are going on the market, and there's 2-3 offers. They're on the market for a week or two. And in Florida, it's showing it right here. It's exactly the opposite. That's one of the reasons I got licensed
right there
because of that.
Houses are on the market, 2 or 3 offers.
Yep. There's not enough inventory.
What are those? What are those offers? Are they full price?
Full price and even over still. And that's New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That's what I'm seeing here. I'm not licensed in Pennsylvania. Just New Jersey.
Give me an example of the area that you're talking about.
Look up Hunterdon County, New Jersey. Warren County, New Jersey. Hunterdon County is probably the better one. And that's the MO. I'm able to practice.
You said Hunterdon?
Hunterdon County.
Yep. Hunterdon County. All right, here we go. I just want to pull it up and take a look.
Yeah. I'm curious. I've been so busy getting the bar off the ground. I haven't really started focusing on New Jersey yet, even though I'm licensed and ready to go. I just joined the MLS up here. I haven't had a chance to do anything because I'm so tied up here. Yeah. Shortly, within the next 30, 45 days, I'm going to really be getting into the market up here like I do in Florida. But from what I'm seeing, it's interesting. Can you pull it up in the MLS down there? Do you have access?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were showing my screen. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
One second.
Yeah, take your time. but it's extremes. Like what I'm seeing here is the extreme opposite of what I'm seeing down there.
So Hunterdon County, New Jersey, 366 houses on the market.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I mean, it shows right. That's a pretty big county. Super high taxes as well.
All right, so here's one price cut $40,000. I wonder why. Let's take a look at this house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is New Jersey a disclosure state? Can we see the price?
You know what? I have to look here. I'm not sure.
Let's take a look.
I want to think they are.
Okay.
Look at the climb there. There you go.
Okay.
That's the listing change, right? Listed at 505. Came down
in August. Yeah.
What did they buy it for? Does it show you goes back far enough for what they bought it for? Sold.
They tried to sell it in June for 500.
But look, they bought it for 128.17. Look at that. It's insanity, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they're not getting what they were asking for.
No. But even if they get close to what they're asking for, they bought it for 178 8 years ago.
Yeah. Let's look at, I mean, honestly, looking at some of these prices, 400, 489, that sounds cheap to me. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see this house here. So the seller wants $629 for it. Okay.
It's an older house.
4 days on Zillow. Let's see if we can get some price history here.
Yeah, they bought it right there. What is that?
361.9 in 2024, and they want $629 for it now. 73%.
Is that insanity or what?
From what they bought it a year ago. Now I'm guessing it was a rehab.
That's something. Well, maybe, but that's something we should follow. Well, let's look at it. Can look at the listing? Go to the history. See if you can see the prior listing. Once I get my MLS set up, I can go back and look at the past listings. I mean, how it's redone.
Yeah.
They must have rehabbed that. They must have redone that. It's all new.
Crazy. Yeah.
But still, even if they put, I mean, it's a lot of money.
So you're tight on inventory in New Jersey.
Yep. Very tight. It's probably one of the tightest states. But that's one of the reasons why, I got licensed up here, to be able to start working in that market while I'm
can't make any money in Florida.
No, I got three deals closing in the next 2 weeks. I mean, I'm making money. But
three deals. You've been in the business since you've been in the business since 2014.
No, I'm just saying
as a
that's
full-time broker. Right.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking my personal deals, not the.
Yeah.
But I'm saying next 2 weeks I got 3 closing, and I'm working on some buyer deals too. But everything's slow down there, man. That's why I expanded out. You have to expand out and pivot with the market if you want to be successful.
Yeah.
You got to go with the market. I can't change the market. I can just work within it, So that's why I'm expanding
let's
out.
take some comments.
That's why I bought the bar too.
Right. Yes.
What is bad, they'll drink.
Hey, what did I say to you about 6 months ago? I said, "Are you going to stay in this business?"
I'm never leaving it, but there's other avenues, pizza, bar, all kinds of things.
Pizza, right? If you can't sell a house, you'll sell a hell of a good pizza.
I'll sell food,
and I'll get you drunk. Come on in, and we'll pour you some bourbon.
Right? I got 20 beers on tap right behind me there.
That's right. Oh man, I want to come up to the bar. We'll have to come up and podcast from the bar. Wow,
I can't wait, dude. It'll be great.
Yeah,
it'll be great.
Fun. We've got we do have some travel coming up. We're going to be heading up to Pennsylvania to a housing manufacturer, a panelized housing, modular housing manufacturer. And
that sounds pretty cool.
We're going to take a look. I believe that we're going to see more modular houses.
I agree.
Come into play. You just sold that lot in Florida. Now, who buys land? The people that buy land are the ones that say, you know what, I'm not going to pay a seller the money for their existing home.
Yeah. That lot that I sold, Todd, that lot I sold, the reason I got it sold was because the person who bought it owns a property 2 lots over, and they bought the other 2 lots around it, and they're putting the lots together. I don't know why, but that's the reason we got that lot sold. that's going to, because it was a particular buyer on that situation. It wasn't just some random person buying it to buy and build. It's a particular buyer who's putting lots together.
They're assembling the lots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to build or if they're just buying it to keep it vacant next to their homes.
As a move-up buyer from 425 to 550 price point, is it better to find something now or wait until spring when there's more inventory?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, if there's more inventory, you have a better chance of getting a better deal, right? It depends on the property, though. If it's something that you can get a deal on, if somebody needs to sell that property and they're willing to take a loss on it, sooner is better later than later, right? It just depends on the deal, the property, and the situation you're in. Is this something you're financing? Is it something that you're paying cash for? I mean, there's some other parameters there you need to look at for the deal. But I tell you, now isn't a bad time because winter's coming and people know they want to get out and things are going to slow down. So I think you have a little more leverage now going into the winter. That's my opinion.
If you can find something that you
can find it. That's the key. It's got to be the house you want.
Right. And the other question is, are you selling a house?
Right.
Because, there are a lot of people right now that are selling their existing house because they don't want to take a chance of the market falling further. And then they're moving into short-term rentals or moving in with family so that they can, capitalize on both swings, right? Try and get what you can now on the house that you're selling, rent for 5 or 6 or 7 months, see what the spring market brings you. It's one of those things where I don't think we're going to be in another situation where we see 2.75% mortgage rates and the frenzy of overspending on the value, overpaying on the value of the house because homes were appreciating 12% upon one day. I mean, that's what we were seeing, a house that was actually hitting the market for the top of the market where it was comping at that point. And then the average was about 12% higher than that was the purchase price, no matter where that was. So people couldn't get the appraisals on the houses, so they overpaid by bringing cash to the table. That was the problem. I mean, come on, guys. If anything else, we're going to lose that 10 or 12% across the country, in my opinion. And if anything else, that 10 or 12% that we saw in one day price appreciation from the house hitting the market to being sold 9 hours later with multiple offers for an average of 12% in 1 day jump.
Insane.
Usually, if you look at the stock market with something like that, usually you're going to give that back or a portion of it back. You can't expect. Now, because that was happening again and again and again, the next day, and prices were skyrocketing, we saw this 25, 30% jump in 1 year in many markets. And in 2 years, a lot of markets across the country, we saw 100% jump from what, look, we're looking at a house right now that someone bought, a year ago or 2 years ago, that's almost double in price. Good luck. Good luck. People are looking at that and they're like, hey, hold on. Whoa, we're not giving you that. Even if it would make sense in a perfect world, people are looking at the historical data and saying, no. Why are you entitled to that kind of a price increase? Now, some people will pay it. Yep. And maybe it was a rehab to the defense of the seller. Maybe he bought it and maybe they put a lot of money into it, hundreds of thousands.
You got to look up permits. You got to look up the permits. You got to see what permits are pulled. You got to look at the history. You could tell what was done or if something was or wasn't.
Austin, thanks so much for your super chat. Phil, do you advise your agents when acting as buyers to provide support with their offers if their clients insist on submitting a 15, 20, or 25% below? It's a great question. List offer.
Yeah. I do that in any market, even when the market was crazy. I always talk to the agent. I always get the details, and I always tell them why we're offering what we're offering. We're giving you this price because this, and this. Here's the comps. And I always back it up with data because talk's cheap, right? You always have to have data. Here's the comps. Here's what's going on. Here's where the market's headed. Here's the trends. I know you want 500,000, but we think it's worth 425. We're not trying to insult you, but here's why. Now, if you were buying the house, wouldn't you be looking at the same thing? That's what I say to them. And that's kind of, I always use stats and I always use facts, no emotions, all proof, all logic, and you got to get the emotion out of it, because a lot of times sellers, if you're making an offer, it's their home. They're emotional about it, but you have to get that emotion pulled out of it, because now we're talking logic when it comes to numbers. And I think you're going to find too, a lot of appraisal values aren't going to come in because houses are selling for less. Even if you agree on that price, buyers agents really need to start using appraisal contingencies on everything, because a lot of these appraisals.
It is in the contingency. It's in the finance.
It's in the contract. It's in the it's in the finance, but we also have a separate document for appraisal contingency just on top of it to cover it.
Well, if you want to waive it, but why would you need a separate appraisal contingency when it says in the financing addendum that it must appraise in order for the bank to lend the buyer the money?
Well, the state of Florida has a separate actual document that I put in on top of it. I don't know why or how, but I use it as security. I can show it to you. It just says that the house, within 10 days of closing, the house has to appraise at the sale price.
It doesn't say that in the finance contingency, that somebody's getting a 30-year fixed rate loan, they're not going to pay any points, or that what points they're going to pay. What the loan program is, conventional FHA, VA.
FHA and VA has an addendum that has it, but the actual contract doesn't state that. The only finance contingency you have is if the loan will not be approved. Now, the loan would not be approved if the appraisal's under, unless they come with the money. So there's a loophole there where they could try to hold them to still buy it. So the contingency clears that up.
I hate extra paperwork. If it, duplicate documents, duplicate documents in the contract, I always I'm like, why are you putting this in the contract?
Thank the lawyers, man.
Yeah. Well, if the lender doesn't lend the money, they don't lend the money. You're out. So, I had a buyer for a house that started out over $500,000. It was down to 420s, I think. And we put an offer in for $300,000.
Wow.
And I called the listing agent before I submitted the offer. I said, look, we're coming in at $300,000. He said, wow. He said, well, that's below tax assessment. I said, well, the house needs a ton of work. The value's in the land. It's in a corner that gets headlights every time somebody makes a turn. My buyer's willing to put a bunch of trees so that the house isn't, constantly riddled with, we get dark around here,
lights.
5:00 in here in a couple weeks. And, it's right on the corner of a busy road. And the house was in serious distress. And he said, I think they're going to have a hard problem selling it for less than tax assessed value. And I said, well, have you had any other offers on the house? He said, yeah, we've had offers on the house. It's been on the house like 180 days. I said, well, what were the other offers coming in? He said around 300,000. I'm thinking, well, why are we so different than anybody else? The next thing you know, they didn't take our offer, but they dropped the price to 350 for like 349.9. And then it ended up, so it went from 550 to 350. And, I still it hasn't closed. I don't know what the final price was.
Talk about a bad agent right there.
Well, the crazy thing is this agent had a lot of experience too. It's either bad agent or bad seller, and they used our offer to finally wake the sellers up 6 months afterwards. But the point getting back,
you think they would have countered? You think they would have countered you at 350? You think they would have countered you? Hey, say okay, 350.
Well, in all fairness, they did say, "Would you come up to the?" I think 330 something was the tax assessed value, and we said no.
Right.
So the price was the price, and that you have to understand that the price is the price. And people say, "Well, put your highest best." This gets me too.
That's it.
What happens is an agent will work multiple offers, and they'll come back and they'll expect you to bid against yourself. They won't counter.
Yep.
They'll just say, well, deadline's Monday at 5. Put your highest and best. And we're like, we did. We did put our highest and best. What's the counter offer? This is crap. You don't just go around. We could be sitting at the highest offer already, and you're asking us to bump our offer and compete with ourselves. And a lot of buyers, as soon as they hear multiple offers, yada, maybe two, but as soon as they hear that, they pull out.
Yep.
And a listing agent has to be really careful because they can lose all of the offers by doing such, craziness.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to go back here again because
I hope he answered that. I hope he answered that for him.
yeah, well, I mean, the question is, and it's not just in Florida. We're seeing where it is not unreasonable to have an offer on a house. I'm looking at another house for a client right now that was started out in the 550s. Again, this particular house, very few updates. We're going to be 340, and and we're not even putting in the offer yet because we still feel it's like 425 or something. We still feel that we're miles away. We're $100,000 away. But it's one of these situations where, it's a house that needs a lot of work and it has one full bathroom in a 3-bedroom house. And people don't want that.
They don't realize they're so overpriced. Isn't that just scaring people away? It's like hurting them.
And they have in the listing as is. And the other thing is,
how's the agent do that?
Look, these first-time buyers have 2 full bathrooms in their apartment.
Right.
These buyers don't want their friends to come over and their toothbrush is there, their toiletries, all this stuff is there, and their friends are coming over and hanging out and washing their hands and going through their, being in the bathroom or their private bathroom. No, you got to have, if you're asking top dollar for your house, you need 2 full bathrooms. Spend the $15,000, put an extra bath, turn the half bath into a full bath, and get the house ready for sale if you want that
100%.
kind of money. This is insane.
I agree with you on that one.
Ask Phil if he thinks a crash has occurred in Southwest Florida. If he thinks the crash has occurred in Southwest Florida, will spread to the rest of the state.
It's going to spread. There's always going to be certain areas that don't get touched. I wouldn't say don't get touched, but you're going to have some not significant, but some drops. Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Lauderdale by the Sea. There's certain areas that are always going to be in demand, and there's going to be less property than people wanting them. But that doesn't mean that just because people want to be there and they have money means they're going to spend it. So it is going to get affected. I don't think you're going to see 10, 15% drops in certain areas. But in your average areas, in your normal areas, you're going to see, I said from the beginning, anywhere from 15 to 20, 25% drops. And you're seeing it. It
Michael
always
Pinto,
Southwest.
Michael Pinto lives in Naples. And that's an area that they weren't expecting to come down. And he said they're experiencing like 15, 20% price drops in Naples.
Yeah. Naples is an interesting area. Because, so Naples has its own MLS. It's the most expensive MLS in Florida. It's a little MLS that's just in Naples. So to show you the ego and the way Naples is, the Kardashian life, Now everything around Naples is the opposite. You got Cape Coral, you got Punta Gorda, you got Port Charlotte. There's nothing around it, right? You have Boca Chica, the island. You got Tucker Carlson, people like that to live there. Those areas are, going to be there. Naples, those kinds of things. But when you get outside of Naples, it's not like Boca. We have Delray, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Sunny Isles. It's not that way there. Okay. So basically, when you're looking at Naples, it's a unique market that never really got touched before. But this touching the topic we were just talking about, just because people have money and want to be there doesn't mean they're going to spend it if they don't have to. And Naples is seeing that, I think, for the first time, where people are like, you know what? Everything in Naples is older. Everything in Naples it needs renovation. There's not much new other than condos, right? In Naples. But it's a unique market there, and it never really took a hit. But now there's other places people can go, and Naples is seeing that. You're seeing a reduction, and you're seeing Naples coming down.
You're next to Marco Island.
Marco Island, another unique place.
They call that Markup Island. I had a client of mine tell me that one time. They said Markup Island. I'm like, what?
Again, Marco Island is very old. It's an older place. It's older buildings.
Older people
wanted to be there. Older people, and they wanted to be there. And you're not having that same demand of the same people who want to be there. There's different generations coming out, and they want newer. They want renovation. They want newer things. So that area is seeing that.
There's a Newsweek article. We'll check this out real quick. So they have here, last month, according to Redfin, there were 2.606 million homes for sale across the U.S., spending an average of 50 days on the market before going under contract. This is 8 more days than a year earlier, and the slowest pace for this time of year in nearly a decade. The median sale price for a typical U.S. home in the same month was $435,545, up 1.7%. And again, this number is a skewed number because the rich people are buying houses, not first-time buyers. But this is this is a very low number. When you look at historically, home prices go up 5 to 7% a year and have since like 1971.
Yeah, let's see. You're good.
So
yes, anyway. Let's see.
All right.
So let me see this really. So you're saying what? Since 1971, what was the number there? I didn't see the.
What number? 1.76, I think it was. 1.7.
Yeah.
So the median sale price for a typical U.S. home in the same month was up 1.7% from a year earlier. So that tells a huge story that even with the rich people still buying houses for cash, that is still a very low number.
Cash buyers are down tremendously in Florida. Tremendously.
Yep. Housing experts first started noticing that the gap between sellers and buyers was approaching a record of 500,000. They predicted that the imbalance in the market would bring down prices. In May, Redfin said it expected home prices to fall by 1% year over year by the end of 25, citing the growing gap between sellers and buyers. All right, let's take a couple comments before we shut it down. We appreciate you guys following along with us this Tuesday afternoon. If you're watching it after the live, you can still comment in. Phil is very good. If you have questions for Phil, he's very good at hopping on and commenting to your questions. So you can feel free to do that. And guys, one of the biggest things that you can do for us at Sachs Realty, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, consider doing so right now. Hit that subscribe button and hit the alert bell. You'll know when we upload content. And then if you want to support our channel, you could do so for $3 a month. We have a new join, a member join button that you can subscribe. If you feel like supporting us in that way, you can cancel at any time. All right. Any realistic chance property taxes go away for homesteader properties or just a pipe dream?
Yeah, I tell you, this is the biggest like smoke and mirrors I've ever seen with the whole tax thing they're talking about. Let me explain this, and most people don't get it. So what they're talking about is for homesteaded properties and possibly owner-occupied properties of eliminating property tax, but also keeping them for commercial and investment property. Now, they're talking about taking a 7% tax rate and making it 9 or 10. So removing the property tax for homestead and owner-occupied properties is going to raise that 3% on everything you buy. So what that's going to do is it'll eliminate property tax for property owners, but it's going to raise your taxes on everything you buy, which will raise the state more money than they're collecting on the property taxes. So they're actually taking more money from people, and they're going to give just the property owners a break. But here's the thing. It has to be voted on. And there's more people in Florida that do not own property than that own property. So unless they're going to vote against their own interests and want to pay more taxes, it'll never pass, right? So if you have more people who don't own property or rent or have commercial, the commercial owners and the investment property owners are going to vote against it. And then all the people who don't own property are going to vote against it. The only people going to vote for it are homesteaded properties and possibly owner-occupied. It's a third of the people. 2/3 own commercial and investment, and you may have people that own owner-occupied property that will save the taxes on their home, but they own 3 or 4 investment properties. Who are they going to vote for? They'll pay the taxes on their home, but it's not going to benefit them. So I don't think you'll ever get the common people that have a brain to vote against their own interest to pay 3% more on tax on when they buy a car, when they buy clothes, it's a lot of money. And I think it's just politicians, man. Like, you vote for who you want to rob you, and that's what they're doing.
Didn't I hear something though that they just wanted to raise the sales tax and hospitality?
Well, that's what they're
Was that
saying.
said?
They're saying the hotel tax, the vacation taxes, the Airbnb taxes, but they're not. It doesn't add up. Like they're saying that, but the numbers, it's not enough money to cover the difference. They're going to end up trying to raise the actual sales tax. You buy a car, on your electric bill, on your cell phone bill, all those taxes. Your taxes are going to get hit on those levels. So it's going to be interesting to see. You know, I'll tell you, I'm close to Georgia when I'm in Florida. I'll drive 20 minutes over the border and buy my cars and everything in Georgia, save 3%, you know, but I'm just a little confused by it because again, they say one thing in the media and it gets people frenzied up, but it's all bullshit because they're robbing you blind behind, on the other hand. And that, like, no one looks at the facts, you know. I just hope people get it. And it's to pay 3% more on everything you buy is insanity for the whole state of Florida.
Well, we'll see what they vote for.
Yeah, we're gonna see for sure.
Yeah, we just covered this 500,000 more listings than buyers in June of 2025, 4 months ago. These were active MLS listings. Behind those, do you think that are millions of future sellers watching this from the sidelines, wondering when to list? What do you advise them?
Let me see this here. Let me see. Listing buyers, June 25th. Say one more time. I can't see the damn thing. My eyes, man. Hold on.
The bottom line is sellers that are waiting to sell. What do you tell them?
Yeah.
I mean, you have more listings than buyers. So they're entering to sell their house or entering a time when the demand is decades low.
Right. And I don't see it getting better within the next 12 months. I see it getting worse. So if you want to sell, you got to somehow set your property aside from others, make it unique, and make it something desirable for people. And the thing is, you got to do it sooner than later because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's something they have to decide on. And they have to come to the actuality of prices are coming down. They got to have enough equity in there, and they got to understand there's cost to doing it, and it's got to be worth the transaction costs for them, if that makes sense. You really got to look at every individual situation and really dissect it and see, because some people it's good, and some people, hey, if they can wait 3-5 years and they're okay there and they don't have to move, it might be a better thing to do. So you got to take all the emotion out again, look at the logic of it, look at the facts, and really advise them properly on what will work and what won't work. And that's really how it works. I mean, it's an individual case by case basis. Can't say in general.
I think that what we're going to see is that when we saw the peak of 2006, especially here in Maryland, it was actually 2022 before a lot of sellers could get back what they bought it for in 2006, especially the higher priced homes. And it took a very long time for home prices to go up. All the while, you spent a lot of money through the years keeping that house up. If you didn't, it wasn't even worth what you purchased in 2022. It wasn't worth what you bought in 2006. You had to upkeep the house. You couldn't just live in it and let it fall apart. And, I think that's if you're selling right now, you need to have somebody put their eyes on your property and say, what's wrong with the house? What is this something that is going to knock a buyer's socks off the minute they walk in the door? Can they imagine themselves being in that house? Can they bond with your house as their house in that first 10 or 15 minutes of walking in that front door? And if the answer is no, then they're walking out uninterested. And it's very strange, the psychology that happens when you're walking a buyer through a house, because they turn their nose to some of the craziest things instead of even looking for opportunities to get a better price. They're like, this house won't work. I don't like this. I don't like that, or whatever. So it's from the moment they pull up. It's the curb appeal. What does it look like from the outside? Have one of your friends drive up and say, give me an honest opinion. Call a home stager. Have them come in and give you an unbiased opinion of what they think of your house and what spend a couple $100 and hire somebody other than your agent that just wants to get the listing. Find out what the appeal. You're numb to it. You've been living in it. You don't even smell the stink that's in the house a lot of times from your pet or just,
Sure.
whatever, dirty living. I'm sorry, folks. But a lot of times you walk in a house for a listing and you're like, oh man, like it doesn't have a good odor. What is the reason why people are turned off when they walk in your house? Depersonalized. People don't want to walk in and see your family's photos, right? Take your personalized items off the wall, put up neutral pictures. Believe me when I'm telling you, if you have a vacant house, get it staged. Okay? Yeah. It is proof that a staged house, because an empty house looks smaller. And people sit there and say, well, my couch won't fit here or my dining room table won't fit here. They're not walking around with tape measures. So when you have it properly staged, spend a couple $1,000, get your house ready for the market. Okay. And a lot of good agents will stage for you and for no cost. A lot of agents have staging services that they own. And so ask the question, but you should be interviewing, not just going with what somebody has to say. Talk about your story. Why is it that you need to sell? It should be confidential. A seller, your listing agent may give innuendos, drop little innuendos as far as why you're looking to sell, but they shouldn't. They should keep it completely confidential, but find an agent you can be honest with. And you could say, look, I have to sell. This is where my bottom line is. This is where I have to be. Get honest opinions and the other thing is prepare to put it on the market. I see so many sellers making catastrophic mistakes by not building up a demand before they go live. I see agents, they want to sign a listing agreement. They want to rush the photos, crappy photos. They put it online. You get a wave of people that come through and you're dead. You're crickets after that. If you put the house in coming soon for a minimum of a week with all the photos in its best look and put it in coming soon for a week, you're going to see how many saves you have on the sites. You're going to see how many views your property has. If you have 900 views and 13 saves, chances are it's not going to be good the day you push it live. If you have 900 views and you have 140 saves, you're seeing what that demand is, and then consider dropping the price before it goes live. Those prices aren't discovered. So if you list it for a price on Zillow and coming soon, and you change it, but you say, look, we're not getting the activity, and you become more realistic on the price and you drop it day one, then you're not seeing the price drop 2 weeks later. You're taking it on the front end.
Right. It's like starting off on a springboard, like when you're diving. You want to get that start.
You have to analyze.
That's exactly it.
Analyze that activity, guys. You're missing it. It's strategy. And good agents are going to be able to tell you that. And for crying out loud, if you're buying a house, get my Todd Simple home buying course. Okay. I haven't mentioned it. Some of you are probably like, well, he hasn't mentioned his course yet. But I'm going to tell you, if you're buying a house, don't do it without getting my course. It's $300. I promise you. I've not had one student, and we have a lot, that has not thoroughly enjoyed this course and has sent me emails and replied to me saying, this is gold. Okay. We're taking you through the start to finish. You have the potential to save tens of thousands of dollars in buying a house. I'm peeling the onion like no one has ever done before that I've seen in this industry. I'm teaching you how to negotiate with your agent, how to negotiate with the sale. I have worksheets, downloads, resource guides, gold. And you can gift it to your kids and your grandkids or your friends, even gift it to your enemies. What the heck? All right, Phil, anything else before we sign off here? This time of day, man, I've talked all day long.
Again, I'm up here in Pennsylvania. It's getting cold, man. I haven't been in an area this cold in about 15 years.
It's cold here in Maryland, 39 this morning.
Yeah, I'm here. This bar that I built was built in 1869, and we just redid everything. I have my office is going to be upstairs. I'm going to put an office here as well. So I'll be, I'm going to get my license up here and Pennsylvania as well. I'm in Jersey right now, like I said. And I can give you a quick walkthrough if you want it. If not, I'll see
somebody's saying, say the name and location. Sure, show us around.
Yeah, it's Pearly Baker's Ale House. It's been here. This building it's been Pearly Baker's Ale House for 30 years. We bought it. We're going to keep the name. Before that, it was called Charlie's Bar in the 90s, and before that, 1940, it was called the Manhattan Club. And I'll give you guys a quick look.
Let's take a look.
It was the first YMCA actually in the city here, and it's right downtown.
You lost your audio. You forgot your microphone. Nope.
Can you guys
All right,
hear
here
me?
we go. Phil's going to take us a walk around his bar. Now we got you.
All right, cool. Put the microphone with me. All right, so let's do this. Can you make my screen bigger? I'll give you guys a good look from the front door out.
I saw your menu too on Facebook, man. It sounds like you got some
Yeah.
good
Dude,
good food.
I make the real cheesesteaks. I slice the ribeye. I was voted best cheesesteak in Philly back when I had sandwich shops. But I'll give
Hoagies.
you guys a look. Yeah, the real stuff, man. So this is the front door when you come in here. This is the front of the bar. So like when you come in the front door, that's the hallway back, and then you'll see there's a stage up here. So we do live music. I have a solo, duo, and trios Friday and Saturday nights. And then in the bar, I have like over here, there's like these little clamshells where people sit and hang out in the bar area that run down the whole side. And then back behind the bar, I'll bring it this way. So we have about 27 seats at the bar. And then I have 20 beers on tap. We do microbrews, everything from Guinness to Down East ciders, all local breweries, Victory. We have Founders all day. I mean, some really interesting beers, and we switch those up. And then when you come back through here, I have a dining room in the back here. So in the dining room, there's a chandelier that hangs. It's been here since, can you turn that on real quick? Turn that chandelier on. There's a chandelier that hangs above with our lights. And I have a diamond pool table, a professional pool table we put here. And it's a whole dining room in the back where I have some televisions. We're going to have all the games. Like right now I have it off because the bar is closed. We're opening up at 6 o'clock tonight. Normally we're open 11 a.m., but we're replacing kitchen equipment. So in here, I have a chandelier that's been here since 1940. It's Czechoslovakian crystals. It's worth about 150 grand. And I have about a $10,000 pool table underneath it. So where can you play pool underneath a $150,000 chandelier other than here?
Love it.
So it's something, man. And then kitchen's in the back, but I can fit about 150, 200 people in here. And this has been here. I'm going to show you outside. It's right in the downtown circle. So it's right in the downtown area. Can one of you guys open the door for me?
Phil, it sounds like we have to have a Phil Simonetta and a Todd Sachs meetup, man, and right there in downtown Philadelphia.
Well, no, this is Easton. It's a little bit north
Easton.
of Philly.
Okay, well, there you
Open the
go.
door, please. I want to show you outside. They're building a 6-story hotel right outside, and the other bar that my brothers own is right next door. So we had a bar here for 15 years that I put together for them before I moved to Florida. So when you come outside, I don't know if that light is gonna. There you go. So can you guys see it? Can you make it a little bigger so I can? I can't tell. If there we go. So out here, I don't know if the light. So this is the downtown circle here.
Very
so
cool.
You'll see it kind of goes in 4 quadrants. The Crayola factory is right there. The Crayola crowns, like where they make the Crayola. It's a tour because this town is where they make great Crayola crowns. And then this whole section of the circle here is where Pearly Baker's is right here. So I'll give you a quick look. So that's my building. That window right there is going to be my office. And then there's 5 apartments up there. And that's the building there where the bar is. And then my other bar my brothers have is right here. The one called Mother's. So we've had that bar for years. Before I even moved to Florida is when we got that. But this is it, man. I mean, this is home for me. This is where I grew up. And then, I went to school in Philly and I never left Philly after that. But this is where I went to high school, where I grew up. So
awesome, man.
And
Thanks for
this is
showing
my
us
son
around.
Eden. My son Eden's right here. This is Eden.
Yeah,
right
we've
here.
seen Eden in the pizza bus.
So, there he is, right there.
There he is. What's
Yeah,
up, buddy?
Exactly. In the pizza bus. But yeah, man, I can't wait to have you guys come up, man. It's gonna be it'll be a cool time. Getting you guys up here, check the place out. That.
Awesome.
So let's go back in here.
All right. Well,
But yeah,
we
man,
appreciate
I'm
everybody.
excited. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, well, Phil, we always appreciate having you on our show, buddy, and thanks everybody
man.
for watching, and
Cool.
we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys later. Good seeing everybody.
Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607.